I guess we'll start now. The hand up over here, those who didn't get a hand up. Start off with two questions. We'll start off with two questions, and we'll see a little bit of a overview of different letters of the Rebbe of what two questions. What is Bitachon, and what is expected as a consequence of Bitachon? Before we describe what it is, let's see some letters that give us keywords that probably have not crossed our mind in the sense of simple English of how the word Bitachon translates into day-to-day language. So I picked four different letters that are going to be able to open up a discussion. The four letters are not going to be explained as they are in this just by reading it. They're going to need a discussion in order to understand them. But they're a good discussion opener.
Volume of what?
English. Yeah. Sorry, yeah. So the first letter over here is probably a little bit of a startling letter, and it's surprising in the sense of how the Friedrich Rebbe turns the word Bitachon, but he says it clearly. The letter of the Rebbe writes, one of the hadrachas of the Friedrich Rebbe, one of his teachings of life is that what the world calls optimism and what Chassidus calls Bitachon. So essentially the Friedrich Rebbe is throwing the word optimistic with the word Bitachon in telling you this is how it plays out. It needs to be understood. What does optimism mean? And we're going to get there. But it's important just to see this as a conversation opener in the sense of keywords that will play in the mindset of Bitachon. So that's the first letter that I quoted here. He continues on. How optimistic a person can be is really two layers. There's an optimistic in the general good for everyone, and then there's an optimistic in my own personal good. And it says optimistic is supposed to somehow spill over into my personal life. Again, this is not understood, but it does throw at us a certain train of thought of optimistic. What does that mean? We'll see soon. Letter 2 and 3 and 4, but 4 is something specific, is about the consequence of Bitachon. Bitachon is not supposed to be a philosophical thing. It's supposed to have a tangible outcome in a person's life, in the sense of menucha, in the sense of tranquility, in the sense of a person feeling serenity, feeling good, feeling the absence of Bitachon is dire. So somehow it starts with a mindset of optimistic and ends with a feeling of tranquility. If it doesn't end with a grounded feeling, then it's a philosophy. And that's not Bitachon. Bitachon is actual life. How, we'll see soon, but this is just a conversation with her. In the fourth letter, the Rebbe actually adds a few words. He uses the word moyach shalit, which we'll get to soon. In English, they say everything is psychological. In the Chassidus, they say everything is moyach shalit. It's really the same, as we'll soon see. The power of the mind is really what Chassidus goes into, we'll see soon. And then he says, even doctors will agree that Bitachon adds to health. So he quotes how doctors say, if you think good, you end up having a quicker recovery. The mind affects the actual recovery. Good. This is a conversation opener, but obviously what we have to understand is, question number one that we have to understand is what is this optimistic mindset? What is optimistic? What's optimistic? What does it mean being optimistic? So I'll play out a case scenario. There's going to be 3 case scenarios that I found, 3 letters, which I'll go through inside later on. But page number 2 is where we're going to start a discussion over here. I'll start the discussion outside, and later on I'll show you the letters inside. So what does optimistic really mean? What does it mean optimistic? A person is facing a life decision that has a consequence. As we'll see, there's going to be 3 cases. One of the cases is a person who has an operation. He was under the knife a few times, and he writes to the Rebbe that he's very worried. He's very worried. And they didn't Google in those days, so he's looking up Sifrei HaRefuah. He's researching his machla. A few times under the knife gives a person some kind of reason to think about what am I going to do. So he's a grounded person. He has a reason why to worry. He's not worrying for the sake of worry. He's worrying because there is reason. There is something there that's wrong. And he's writing into the Rebbe, and he tells the Rebbe, I'm anxious. I've been under the knife a few times. I'm researching my machla, and I have a problem. The Rebbe throws that in Bitachon. What's the Rebbe saying? What's the Rebbe saying? What do you want from him? He has a problem. Is it what he should ignore it? You can't ignore a real gnawing problem that's in your mind. Ignoring it, see, some people type optimistic as ignorance is bliss. That's not true. That's someone who's naive. That's someone who, sooner or later, we're going to say, welcome to reality, and it's not going to be a such fun reality. Because the reality is, there is a chance of being bitten. And if you're just going to ignore it, you might find that bite, and you might not like it. So optimistic is not someone who's ignoring a reality. This person is facing a reality. What do you want from him? Case scenario one.
Would you also say that that person who doesn't want to face it is in denial? Could you also say that?
A person who doesn't want to face, that's what I just said. A person who doesn't want to face potential consequences of a situation is in denial. He's naive, denial, unaware. He's call him whatever you want. The bottom line is he is not grounded, and his optimism will bust through. But it's not going to hold. It's fake. It can't hold. It's not going to happen. But here the Rebbe is throwing it at someone who's actually facing a real problem. I'm going to quote 3 cases, and then we'll analyze all 3 of them and see the common denominator. There can be cases in Bani, Chaim, and Mezayim. So this was a case in Chaim, in health. Bani, Mezayim, a case of Parnasa. A person writes to the Rebbe that he's very anxious. Why? Because he's sick, and he can't take care of his business. He's sick in bed. And the nature of someone sick is they can't invest the amount of time they usually invest in their business, and the business is not doing the same way it's doing when he's there. So he writes to the Rebbe that he's doing whatever he can. He has his wife and kids that are somehow able to substitute and do whatever they can to make the business run, but he has a reason to be anxious. Hey, they weren't there from day one, and they don't have the experience he has, and so he's anxious, rightfully so. Bitachon. What do you want from me? What do you want from me? What should I do? I have a real problem here. I'm facing a real problem. What do you want from me? Case number 3. Case number 3 is in Shidduchim. Fascinating letter that I actually put here in the end. We'll go through it. Is a person writes to the Rebbe that they're having a hard time finding a pasan de shidduch, the right one. Interestingly enough, the Rebbe doesn't answer with a bracha. The Rebbe starts off with a line and says, you can't find the right one because you're not looking the right way. And he goes into a 3-point outline of what it takes to look the right way. We'll go through the other points later, but point number 2, the Rebbe writes there, part of the indecisiveness that a person can have while facing such a momentous decision is the unknown of what will happen later. Yes, I did my research. Yes, I did what I can. But as
jump in? Is this for the actual person or this is for parents?
This is it's for both. It's for both. It's for both. Yes, I did what I can, but so the Rebbe continues writing to this person. the indecisiveness that a person feels, so that Rebbe writes, you should know, what is the person afraid of? There are a lot of ifs and buts. I'll put it in my own words and I'll tell you the Rebbe says. There are a lot of ifs and buts that can happen later on. A lot of things that can happen. Things can go south. The awareness of the probabilities that can happen, and I heard from Yenta and from Shmenta that it happened to them, frees me before I make that decision, because I'm like a deer in front of the headlights. I'm afraid. Unknown. There's a lot of ifs and buts. It's a real fear. Especially today, you can add that a mole, maybe they didn't know as much of the ifs and buts. But today, every if and but that happened, or should have happened, or even that didn't happen, is already known. So, it makes it even more scarier for an individual who's facing that decision. The unknown is very scary, so it creates a frozen moment. Says the Rebbe to this individual. This will help us understand the other two cases as well. It says like this. It says you should know that in the decision of a chasana, and we'll soon see it in every decision, there is no such thing as knowing 100%. Why? Because whatever you know, you can't and won't be able to take into consideration the impact of the chasana itself. The chasana in itself is a momentous occasion that has enough within it to change a person. And not could, but it does. And you can't predict, and not that you can't, and if you work hard you can't. You can't as impossible. Predict what will happen, and therefore the reality is you will never be able to 100% know how things will play out. Here, the Rebbe writes about this, so the Rebbe is essentially highlighting the fear, even more putting it on the table as a valid fear. Here he throws Bitachon again. Over here, not in the other two points. Over here. Why? What is this? First case, we had a person facing the real scenario of under the knife, Bitachon. Second case, the person facing a parnasa, critical moment. It's a real, he's facing the real problem, Bitachon. The third case, it's a real fear. What do you want me to do? How do I wrap my mind around this word and solve my anxiety that I felt when I wrote you the letter? What do you want me to do? The emes, in order to understand this, the Rebbe writes in a few places like this. There's a Gemara that writes as follows. Gemara gives a mashal. Gemara says the Eibishter created the world, and he created it with 3 walls, like a porch of 3 walls. 3 walls. And the 4th wall, he left empty. Ruach Tzvaynis is empty. It's a metaphor. That's the Gemara trying to say. And I'll explain, so this explains, that the Gemara is essentially bringing out the reality of life. Eibishter created the world imperfect. There is no such thing as perfection. It doesn't exist. There's no perfect healthy person. There's no perfect shleimus, midas, shleimus ha'adam. That's the perfect. There is no such thing. Not shocked that if I work hard I can get it, but it just doesn't exist. Why did Eibishter do that? The Eibishter is stingy. He can't give us a perfect moment, but he has it. Why can't he give it? Why did he do it? Says the Gemara, the Eibishter did it on purpose, and the Gemara continues. Someone's going to come ahead and say he's the Eibishter. We're going to tell him go and finish the 4th wall. What's the Gemara saying? The Gemara is saying something so deep. The Gemara is saying like this. The Eibishter created the reality of the world. You're talking about being realistic. A realistic person is someone who recognizes the imperfection of life. The imperfection of the world, we say it in English, there's no guarantees besides death and tax. We say that in English. We say you never know. We say, in other words, the world itself is somehow giving us, if a person is the ultimate realist, a realist is someone who's grounded, a realist is someone who knows what is in their hands and what's not in their hands. The same way when you focus in life, the same way a person who has, give you an example, a person who has a project given to him, her. Big project. When you look at a project as a whole, you're paralyzed. But when you look at it in the sense of what can I do today to make it happen, and what can I do tomorrow, and today I only look at what I could do and the things I can do, I simply don't look at. So I'm 100% in my reality. Reality is defined by what you could do, not what you can do. The ultimate realist, when they look at a scenario, and every scenario of life, and let's go back to the three cases and we'll see this, every scenario of life has a 75% and 25% split, 3 walls and 4 walls. Every decision of life has 75% that I can make happen and 25% that was never in my hands to make happen. I simply can't make it happen. Every single scenario of life plays out the same way. Every single, whether it's Banei, Chaye, let's start off with the Banei, the Shidduch. The person facing that decision moment, why is a person anxious? There's two kinds of anxiousness. There could be anxious because you have something in front of you that you have to do and it takes time to do it. And after you do it, you're not anxious. That's not anxious. That's the hard work. You sweat. You have to do something. You have to do something. You push yourself to do it. That's not anxiousness. Anxiousness is when you put your mind around something that's not yours. And you can't do it because you're not meant to do it. Who asked you to put your mind in a place that you're not supposed to? You know, you can waste your life fighting, there's certain people that think about changing global problems, and they stay with the global problems, and they go to the grave with the global problems, because they never ever focus on their own life and their own personal problems, so they end up with global problems. But a regular, healthy person focuses on what they could do. The same focus a person has in focusing and splitting a big project and focusing today on what you could do. And tomorrow, it's simple. It's not simple. It's a skill that we have in life that we teach ourselves, that my mind is going to be put into a place where it could do something. When your mind is in a place that it could do, it doesn't become anxious. When your mind is in a place that it's wrapping around something that it can't do, so you're in a self-imposed jail. Because what your mind is doing is your mind is trying to wrap itself around something that it's not meant to wrap itself. Who asked you to put your mind there? So essentially, my investment of my mind in a place that's the fourth wall that's never mine to do, the unknown, the ifs and buts of life that a person thinks about paralyzes them. But why should I think about the ifs and buts? The ultimate realist, let's go to the conversation of the pessimist and the optimist. They're both facing this decision of the shidduch, let's say. They're both facing the unknown. And the pessimist is oying and weighing about the 25% of the ifs and buts, and the optimist looks around him and tells him, you know what? You're not realistic. You think you're God. Who do you think you are to even think about things that are not yours? Why should I now think about if I might have a heart attack tomorrow? Why should I now think about why should I going to think about what I could do today? You can go think about global problems, and you'll join all the global people. And I'll think about the things that I can do today. It's essentially a reaction and a decision a person has in every moment of life. You face a decision. Ask one question. Why should I waste my time thinking about things that are not in my hands? Really, essentially, the recognition here is that I'm a teammate. I have a teammate. The Eibishter created everything. This is the first shlav in Bitachon. Letting go of things that are not mine is a recognition that I'm not in control. I'm not in control. We were created in a way that we crave control. The Eibishter created every single human in a way that we crave control. We create it. The recognition that a person can come, that the fourth wall is not mine, busts that control and allows you to invite a partner. It allows you to recognize there's something not in my control. So 100% of my mind is going to be in the things I could do, and 100% of it will not be in the ifs and buts. If 100% is not an ifs and buts, why should I be anxious? Not easy, but it is a cheshbon that we really do on a day-to-day basis. Oh, so let's go through all of the three cases. We'll go through all the three cases. Okay, run it past some.
Because in the case, let's say, in the shidduch.
The case, let's go through the shidduch case, let's go through the chayim case, and the mezainis case. All three cases. In the shidduch case, a person has to make research. A person who doesn't make research is not doing what they can do. That's not easy. And that's not what Abishah wants. He has you to build them. He asks you to build free walls. Build them. But the ifs and buts, what's going to happen after they have children? How will they react? What's going to happen if people think? Everybody thinks. Especially when it's your life. Let's go to the case of the doctor and compare them. Person is sitting there. Why is the person researching while they're in bed in the hospital? Because they want to avoid the 5% of misdiagnosis. You really think in 10 minutes in bed you're going to somehow be able to avert the misdiagnosis? That's news for you. Not happening. I have a better idea. That's what the Rebbe writes. Go to Arei Signitit. Why does the Rebbe say Arei Signitit? Go to Arei Signitit. A friend cares. And caring helps you avert as much as possible in your effort that misdiagnosis. The doctor sees numbers. A friend sees a person. You see a person, you care, and you can. In life, when you own a business, you can account to the numbers, right? You have to come to some point of recognition. I did what I can. And now, I'm allowing the messenger of the 25% in the area of the fool as a doctor. In the area of other areas, it might be someone else. You have to learn to let go when it comes to these areas because I did what I can and I invited the other 25%. It's an interesting equation because the Gemara says 3 walls and 4 walls. It means 75-25. That seems like that's the equation. The ability to let go of things that are not mine is very difficult. But it's very empowering. And it's very real. It's the ultimate real. Because you're not realistic if you put your mind in things that you realistically can't do. So who asked you to put your mind there? Rebbe writes in a letter, I'll show you the letter soon. So you have two choices. You can either react to a situation by worrying maybe it won't work out, and obviously the worrying here is not about the things you could do, it's about the things you can't do. Right? Things that not can't as in work hard, can't as impossible. So I'm going to worry about the impossible. You marry off your children and you're worried maybe they're not going to have children. Maybe they're not going to have healthy children. And you can worry your whole life. Maybe they're not grandchildren. And maybe they're not going to have good kids. Maybe all they become about their life. You can worry your whole life until the kid. And maybe you're not going to have a kid either. So you can worry about that also. You can worry. There's a lot of things to worry about. But a person who somehow ejects themselves from the ifs and buts focuses on what they could do. Why should I put my mind in a place that I'm simply going to put myself around a vicious spiral of spiraling myself like a deer in the headlights? Why should I do that to myself? I'm going to focus on what I could do. And that changes every day. There are new things you can do the next day. Don't be lazy. The Rebbe writes to a girl who's looking for writes to the Rebbe that she's getting married soon. And she wants to live next to her parents in Eretz Yisrael. So she says she's a very big mind. Could be I mentioned this. Right? I mentioned this letter. And she says, I'm going to go to Eretz Yisrael because there might. There's one point, so the Rebbe writes 2 points. There's one point over there that I want to highlight and be catch to this.
She wants to go because she wants to be.
She's a big mind. Wherever they she can give her mouth, she can give her mouth. So line up to me, if I live here, I live there. She can give me mouth. The Rebbe writes to her, there's no such thing. You have to go for your koiches and chushin. And your koiches and chushin, specifically her, was in America. The Rebbe writes how you can develop yourself more when you're away from your parents, and you can develop your koiches and chushin away from your parents. But the Rebbe writes one point there that I want to bring attention for this. He said, what I'm writing to you now is the way it is now. It could be that will change tomorrow. The could and can't of life is not a status quo like a picture on the wall. Oh, if it becomes a can, that's it. There's no such thing. The Bitachon is not there to make you lazy. The Bitachon is only there for the things that are not yours. I have to constantly see what I could do because I'm meant to do what I could do. And that changes. Don't be lazy. The moment you're lazy, you're not doing the Sheshis Yomim. You're not doing the Yegiya Katecha. It's Yegiya. It's not easy. So that's how it plays out in the case of the hospital. In the case of parnosis, again, in the case of the hospital, why is the person anxious? They're not anxious because they're sick. They're anxious because they're worried of the ifs and buts. There's pain because of the sickness, and there's pain from the spirit.
Not being in control.
There's pain from not being in control. But one second, you're not in control. Welcome to reality. So why not accept reality? The real reality is three walls. That's the real reality. Ask anyone out there. They might not say Abish, they'll say luck, they'll say fate, they'll say other fancy words, but the reality is that it's three walls. They'll say you never know. They'll say there's no guarantees in life. They'll say many different things that really bring out the same thing. So that's the real reality. So an optimist says, hey, I'm the ultimate realist. Because I recognize what is mine and what isn't mine, and what's not mine. I ejected myself 100% from there. So the moment 100% of your mind is in the things you do, why should there be anxiousness that comes as a result of things that you could do? And that you have a partner 100% in the area that's 100% his. 5% with many people type optimist, oh, it's only a 5% chance. That doesn't take away anxiousness because when it's your life, 5% is a lot. That doesn't work. But when it's 100% not there, that's when you can take it away because it's really not mine. When you have a teammate at work, people have a very hard time. They don't know how to have teammates. Because you keep on looking over your shoulder to look at him. So you don't really have...
It's hard to know what's the 75% what's 20%.
Very good.
What is in your control and what is completely
And also in conjunction with that, it's like you're saying, you also say you hear Tapacha changes every day. So like, what was yesterday, 75%, and 25%, the whole equation changes the next day. You're saying, you know, isn't that what you said? Like one day, yeah. Every game changer. So like, you know, then it kind of throws you off. Because like, yesterday I couldn't do it, today I could.
mean every day, the day 24 hours, or
So let me give you an example. The case of the parnasa that we had. Did you pay attention to that case? What happened? The ladies, the person in that case was sick, and he didn't write that his wife and children stayed at home and didn't take over the business. He said his wife and children took over the business. He said he did what he can, but he's anxious because what's going to happen? You're supposed to do what you can. When you face a scenario, you know when you exhausted your options. Because you know when you say, I hit a brick wall. And we say that all the time.
But in the doesn't mean that you have to go with the track.
Did you try a different track? Is there another track?
Isn't that super talking about where you hit that brick wall?
What do you mean by a different track? The person with the business, let's say. He has a business. He's not there. He did what he can.
He's anxious about the results, but when you didn't do what you could, you don't know what you could do and what you can do.
There's another point here in the present. Two more points. And let me see if that's going to touch upon what you're saying. Because this is letting go of the future. You're referring to how to be in the present. You're not referring to how to let go of the future. You know how to let go of the future. And that's pretty much a fact. But you're discussing how am I present in the present. How do I do what I have to do? That's step 2. Let me get there. You're discussing that'll help you friendship. What's in your hands is what I should do. So let's go to step 2. First step is letting go of future. In other words, the recognition of letting go is a real recognition. It's a real recognition. It's not a emunah, or let me say it like this. It's not a hypothetical, it's not someone who's living in a bubble. It's a realistic recognition the world is not perfect, and therefore, why should I put my mind in this? It's a bust of life. Now, how does that play in what we could do? Now let's go in what we could do. So there's
Can you just repeat what you just said?
the recognition, let's go through the paper. So point number 6. Let's go through the paper and we'll see the paper. Point number 6 is 2 kinds of optimism. I wrote the first optimistic is ignorance is bliss. naive, unaware. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a choice, a skill that comes to training how to react to a situation. That's what we are referring to. I brought out 3 cases of livelihood, health, and shidduchim. All 3 cases, a person was facing the unknown. They were not facing something that if they work harder, they can know. They were facing the unknown. And the unknown is something that drives us crazy. I brought down the Gemara, 3 walls, the 4th wall, 75%, 25%, and I put down, naturally we create to be in control. The recognition that you can control, that has the ability to drive someone nuts. This recognition, what does this do? It destroys the trust we have in ourselves. Trust is 100%. You can't trust someone 99%. The person says, I love my child so much, but once a year I leave them up for adoption. You don't love them. Once a year, you don't love them. Love is 100%. Trust is 100%. The moment I recognize I'm not 100% in control, I'm essentially trusting in the Yiddish trust. Because if I can't trust myself, who am I going to trust? That means I'm not in control. That means I have now come to a de facto recognition someone else has control. Control is either or. There's no such thing as I have control. Then you are a half, and you're not in control. That's step number 1 in Bitachon. Trust has to come through first creating a platform where it can breathe. It can't breathe in a place where you're not realistic and you don't recognize that you don't have 100% control. That's the first step. That leads to the good of anxiety from hard work versus anxiety of the unknown. The unknown is a different anxiety. And that's the anxiety the Rebbe was talking about in all these letters. The anxiety of the unknown. That's a consequence of absence of bitachon. And that can be ejected through 100% focus on what I could. So then I don't have the unknown is not my thing. Why should I put my head in the unknown? The Rebbe says, the lashon in the letter, the next page is going to be the letter. The next page 3 is the letter. Why should I waste so much life energy on worrying about the things that are not in my control? He writes like this, because I have 2 choices how to respond to the unknown. I can either worry about it, and later I'm going to worry, why did I have to worry about it? Because it worked out. Or I can somehow let go of it, let the one who could do it, and meanwhile I have good on both sides. It's easy said, and hard done, but it is a cheshbon that we do make naturally when we face such situations. Why should I waste my time thinking about the things that are just not my thing to think about? I just don't have to think about these things. Now, I want to give an example. And that example is number 12. And that example is like this. I didn't put it on the thing. And that example is from in the Iraqi war, in the Eretz Yisrael. It's a beautiful example that I saw. So when Eretz Yisrael bombed the Iraqi reactor, they sent 6 pilots. The 6 pilots that went, 2 of them were supposed to die. Why? Because the last 2 who left don't have the element of surprise. They're the last ones to leave back from the reactor. And the planes did not have enough fuel to go there and back. So they had to take away the missile defense of the plane and put more fuel. So I saw an interview. There's a Friday gig, it doesn't seem like he's a firm gig. I saw an interview with this pilot, and this is what he said. Fascinating thing. So they asked him, you weren't afraid?
What was the punchline?
He is one of the pilots who, when he was going on this mission, had a conscious awareness that he might not come back. He was one of those 2.
Because the first few came there.
There's a chasm because the last ones to leave don't have the element of surprise, and they're sitting ducks. So when the missiles come at them, they're the last ones to be hit. There was a chasm that the army made. There was a chasm the army made that they have a bigger second. So you're right.
Told them that before.
Of course, they knew. They know everything. They know the whole chesed. To maneuver, you have to know. These are the elite soldiers. They're not kitchen. They're not. They're chacham geilim. So listen what he says. He says, they asked him, you weren't afraid? So he says, ask any pilot. We're trained to focus on our mission. The fear we put in the back of our head.
The back pocket.
In the back of our head. Is it there? I have to focus on what I can do. If I would think about the fear, I wouldn't be able to do what I could do.
Wow.
So really, we're all pilots. Really, we're all pilots. We're all pilots. If we don't focus on what we could do, then you don't have the siyata d'shmaya and what you can't do. Siyata d'shmaya, they came back. So really, it's a chesed. It's a chesed of letting go of what you can't do and allowing yourself to focus on what you could do. So that I put in point number 12. That's essentially example of a regular individual who is able to implement of what it takes to invest your mind somewhere and to eject your mind from somewhere. This is a mind game. Bitachon is moyach shalos. It's a mind decision and conscious implementation that a person has. Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out the mechanism of it. Does, in other words, it's just that Hashem makes up a random rule? In other words, if you trust me in the 25% and you give it over to me, I'll make miracles. Like that.
One second. The making miracles we didn't get to. What we're dealing with is two parts of Bitachon. What we're dealing with is how to have a mikvah. We started off with a question: what is Bitachon and what's the consequence, which is menucha, calmness in life. Person faces decisions of life. Person can be anxious, and a person is anxious. And the Rebbe always throws at us this word bitachon to somehow be able to deal with anxiety.
Wait, sorry. So one consequence is menucha.
That's the one. The other one is we'll get to that. The actual changing the situation, we'll get that. The first prerequisite, it doesn't come without the first. The second doesn't come without the first, because you can't have a mind of daiga and expect change when you're still stuck in birds. It doesn't work that way. The first point is a conscious decision where a person slowly adapts their mind, their mindset, their train of thought to focus on the things they could do and letting go of the things they can't do. It's really a conscious decision that a person makes when they face that. I understand the things you could do, we have to a little bit explain what it means could, but the things we can't, we can right away see, and we can also see how they can make us nuts. And we can also see how you need a conscious decision to let go of them, because you don't automatically let go of the things that are unknown. Automatically we want to cling to them and somehow get to know them, because we feel like I want to be in control. That's how we are, that's how the Abishah created us. We create to be in control, not to be out of control. So it takes a conscious decision to let go of the unknown to allow yourself to control the known. Not easy, but it is a conscious decision we do make, and we have to make it. You don't have a choice. At the end of the day, you have to make that choice. You want to get anything done, you have to make that choice. Otherwise, you're stuck like a deer in the headlights. That's really what it is. Now, let's go back to this. Examples of two letters where there's an absence of that recognition, just to highlight that. There were two letters, I mentioned that a few weeks ago, but I'm going to bring them in this context. There was a letter that a person writes to the Rebbe. Someone was sick, and she writes, I can't do anything but cry and cry. Cry and wail. Cry and flesh. Right? What does the Rebbe write? Again, heroveinen, stop crying. There's two kinds of crying. There's a crying from pain and there's a crying from despair. Crying from pain is okay. That's normal. If you don't cry from pain, you're not bloody. You're a cruel person. You don't have feelings. You're numb. You cry. Person's in pain, you cry. That's okay to cry. You should cry. But crying from despair, that's the problem. Why are you despairing? Despair means you don't see a solution. It means you're trying to find a solution. It means you're trying to go into the unknown. Despair comes from wrapping your mind around things that have no end, that have no solution. Why don't they have a solution? If they have a solution, you should find it. Because they're not, you don't have a solution. There is no solution. It's impossible to find a solution. Don't put your mind around it. Who asks you to put your mind around things you can't do? You put your mind around things you can't do, and then you correct it. You can't do them. You're not supposed to do them. It's not yours to do. You're this side of the aisle, and he's on that side of the aisle. Let go. It's not easy, but it is a decision that the mind can do. The mind lets go of a lot of things, and as we'll see, the mind can let go of the future, and the mind has to let go of the past too. And the present, the mind has to be in the present. It's all about the mind. That's talking is moyach shabbat. Like this is the first thing. That's the same as code of the second letter. The first line says, "Wife is very sick." Rebbe chaptach on the word "very." So why do you think the word "very"? You're not describing an illness. You're describing your emotional description of the illness. Sick. Very is your predictions. Let go. Who asked you to make predictions? Who asked? It's sick. I got it. But your very is the mother shchita. There's no whole chilek, but the mother shchita didn't have. Why? The spirit, the unknown. Let go. There's a point in time in decision making that a person recognizes it's just not my thing. Let go. That's point number one. That's the point number one of Tracht and it takes you to page 3. Page 3, I brought the letter of the Rebbe. How the Rebbe has the two choices how to react. And here the Rebbe says clearly, you can go through the whole letter if you want later, but I just highlighted A and B. There's two choices. You have one choice to worry, and again, the worry here is not about what to do. It's about the unknown. The unknown is something you let go. Let go. In the areas that he does, in the fourth wall. In the 3 walls, you've got to do. Okay, let's go to the next point, which is page 4. Good. So what do we have now? This recognition of letting go of the future, this recognition allows you to be present in a different way. And let's see how this plays out online. This leads us to Hashgacha Pratis. In the letter of Shidduchim, in that letter that I quoted before, the Rebbe writes one more point about the present. And the Rebbe writes like this. Again, the girl wrote to the Rebbe, I don't know if the girl, boy, the person writes to the Rebbe, if I can't find the proper shidduch, writes to the Rebbe, you're not looking the proper way. 3 points. Point number 2 was the unknown. Point number 1 I didn't discuss. And point number 3 was how to be in the present. To be in the present. So the Rebbe writes like this, the Rebbe says, there's 2 ways how we approach the things that come our way in life. One way is, it sounds like a nuance, almost like, it's just a play of words, but it's a huge difference. One way is the person is on a pedestal, kind of predetermined where things will come and how things will play out. And many times that's how we look at strategy. I have kind of understood myself, kind of know how things will play out. It's going to come out of there. So therefore, when it comes from there, I just ignore it. When it comes from there, I just ignore it. It's not going to come there. What does he know about me? That person, that person knows, I'm going to listen to him. So what did I just do? I just closed doors. Who asked you to close doors? You just came to recognition you're not in control. That should also play out in your own life in the present. Things that come your way, take seriously. Listen. Don't just, don't dictate, but listen. Messages that come your way, things that come your way are messages. You don't have to do it, but listen. The biggest innovations of life happen by surprise. Inventions happen by mistake. To the people who are listening to what happens around them. Not to the people who chose to dictate how things will happen. Those people, things never happen.
Well, sometimes you get mixed messages.
So let's get a few examples. The famous story of a person that comes to shul on a day, and a wagon driver says, my wagon got stuck, right? The famous story. And Chassidim were in shul, and Simpsons that can't come out to help him. So he says, if you really want, you could. You don't want.
How do you say it? How do you say it?
I don't know. I remember the last one.
What's
Modi Chassis. If you
the
want, you could. If you want, you could.
Rashi says the real is the cancer is open. You could, but you don't want.
You don't want.
There's a famous word, the Russian, it says, you could, but you just don't want to. And then we refer to other things.
Right. So what did the student learn? The student learned the story. It's a nice story. What they learned? They learned, hey, things are coming. Many times we say, I can't, but I could. Let's pay attention. Something came my way. Did they stop or they didn't go out and fix the wagon? Other years and that's not the point. The point is they were listening to messages of life. That taught them in other areas. Many people ask, what means I have to say yes? What do you mean you have to say yes to an offer? It means you're listening. It's going to teach you for a different offer. It's going to teach you, but I'm listening. Says the Rebbe to this person, when an offer comes, you take it 100% seriously. Invest yourself 100% in the present. Don't invest yourself 60% by telling yourself, oh, there's a 40% chance based on my understanding of myself. This is not going to work out, so therefore I'm going to do it to be basic. You decided yourself you're not going to be there, so don't complain when things don't happen because you're not in the present, so take the messages that are coming to you. Who asked you to let go of the present? I'm not in the present. You have decided the present that you're not accepting the messages. This is the whole Nakud of Shliach. The messages that come to you are messages. Don't look at the messenger. So you're going to say, this shotgun doesn't know anything about me. So I say I listen even to what he has to say. Close the phone. If something, listen, extra maybe. The approach. The approach that you never know can play out also good. Just like you never know can play out with a heart attack, after shalom, it can also play out as a surprise can come out of nowhere. So how I am in the present, that's a shkocha pratis. Shkocha pratis means it says not only is the 25% not mine, but the 75% is also someone else here with me. There's many jokes that bring this out of the person there. There's a flood and the person.
Can you say that again? Just like 25% is not mine.
Just like the 25% of the unknown is not mine to know. And when I come to that recognition, I let go of the ifs and buts. That also should bring me to a recognition that even in the present, if you're not 100%, you can't drive if you 75% know how to drive. You just can't drive. You're going to crash. So obviously someone is helping you to drive. So pay attention to the messages thrown at you.
Even the 75%.
Even the 75%, the messages that come at you, pay 100% attention. Don't dictate how they will work out. Small miracles are small enough to ignore. Shkocha pratis is small enough to ignore. But if you listen, you hear it. There was once two students bringing, and one said, how come you always say over the Shkocha pratis stories? I never see these things. It's very simple. You don't want to see them, so you don't see them. Very simple. Very simple.
You don't pay attention, you don't open your eyes.
If you don't listen, you won't see it. Dictate the להגיד לראש מה יהיה. אני כבר משער מה יהיה. So there's a lot of...
So basically you're saying the 75% is also... It's also coming from the source.
In other words, it's a cheshbon process. It's a cheshbon that a person recognizes. If I'm not in control, there's someone else who is in control. Control is 100%. Definitely. Listen, if you're going to say I'm the owner, if you own a company and someone's going to say I just want 25% control. If you're going to ask for something, and someone say I'll give you only a little bit of what you want, then you didn't do what you want. It's 100% or zero. You can't be committed to someone and once a year you're not committed.
So what are you talking about? 75%?
The moment we pop our in control notion is the moment we recognize that we're not in control, and that should seep into the things we do as well. Because if you're not in control, that means to say there is something else. There are messages within the things that I do that are not really mine, that I have to pay attention to.
So 75% is not out of control also.
No, but you have to do. You still have. If you wouldn't listen and do it, it wouldn't be done. And you have to do it. And you can ignore it. You have a chida. It is yours. You can ignore it and you can do it, but you have to listen. It's how you do it. There are things you have to do. And if you won't do it, it won't happen. The question is how you do it. Am I listening or am I not? And when you listen, you hear other things. Suddenly opportunities come from left field because I listened. And the things I thought would work out didn't. And something came out of nowhere because I was open enough. I was humble enough to recognize that I should listen. And I should hear the messages that are thrown at me. And because I listened, I was able to see golden sand. And it came out of nowhere. And it didn't come from the places that I strategically planned that it would come out of. Oh, that came from a person who was humble enough to come to the recognition of the present. That the present is also a place that I have to recognize and pay attention. Don't listen. Nowadays, people we predetermined. I have a plan. This is how it's going to happen. And why should I pay attention? It's not shayach. Really? Is there anything that I know 100% that I can dictate? You don't know. You never know. You yourself know you never know. So why did you say it's not shayach a second ago? Why did I just circumvented an opportunity for myself. Maybe that was the pattern of shidduch when I said it's not shayach. It could be I'll say it's not shayach after I make research. That's okay. Then you did what you can. But blocking something before it comes because you predetermine how it will come is sheer, it's not realistic. It's not a realistic person. It's someone not in touch with reality. If you're in touch with reality, then you should be paying attention to the reality because reality teaches you, life teaches you, the Eibishter teaches you as you go on in life. You don't teach the Eibishter how life should play. Be a receiver. Understand, things come at you. You right away said no. I'll go out to be, I'll look at it to be basic. Who are you fooling? You're talking to the mind. Look at it, says the Rebbe in the letter. Look at the things that come to you 100%. Be present when you see them, then you'll find the right one. That was point number 3 in the letter. The letter's in the end. If you will look at things that come to you and say, probably, then you're not looking at it. You're not looking at it. You're essentially already Xing it out before you had a chance to really have a proper understanding. The way you see it is the way you're going to perceive it. If you don't look at it in a proper way, you're not going to see it. So you already decided it. Why? That's the point for me. The Rebbe writes that in point to shidduch. But that's the same thing in every area. In the Zaynei, in every area, it's the same thing. The present has to be something. That's what Hashgacha Pratis means. Hashgacha Pratis means the way I'm in the present is in a way that I learn from the things that come my way. That's what Hashgacha Pratis means. And if you look in all the places of Bitachon, Hashgacha Pratis comes as a consequence of Bitachon. That's the second point. So on the paper, what do we have over here? Rule number 2 in Bitachon. On page 4. That even in the present, if it comes my way, 4. There's a purpose beyond my calculation. And you take it seriously.
What number?
16 on 4. Yeah, on the top. The things that come to me, I take seriously. I'm 100% present. To be present is a focus to be present. Therefore, strategies are messengers. You focus on the message, not the messenger. Innovative solutions they came by surprise. The gashness, that's how life plays out. You never know has a good side to it. You can never know. So pay attention, listen. So Rebbe writes in the shidduch letter, the third point was the mindset of things that come your way. Person says, this person can't really know me, and therefore I won't pay attention to this. Oh, who said? I'm going to look into it to get them off my back. I'm going to give it a try. You already decided it's not it. You're not giving no try. You're really not trying. Who are you fooling? So the bottom line is that we have predetermined mindsets. And that predetermined mindset doesn't allow you for the passion that shidduch. The person writes in the letter, I can't speak in the passion, they're the right one. You don't have the right mindset. You don't have the right one because you're not looking the right way, so you won't find it. That's what the Rebbe writes. The Rebbe writes back clearly. You're not looking the right way, so don't expect to see the right one. Who asked you to look the wrong way? You look the wrong way, you see the wrong thing. Examples how this plays out on life. I gave a bunch of different examples. People are bringing. Why do you see a shafar and I don't? Again, the idea is if you allow yourself small miracles, small enough to ignore. As an example with the boat, right? There's a famous example, a person is drowning, there's a flood outside. He goes on top of the building. A boat comes, a plane comes, right? It's a famous example everybody knows. And then another person, he says, no, I'm waiting for the Eibishter to help me. And he dies. He says, Eibishter, where were you? Eibishter sent you to the kids you 3 times. Where were you? Things that come our way. You don't need Eibishter like Avraham Avinu saw Eibishter. In the present, you see things. Things come your way. So we don't, yeah.
It may not fit here. I'm just saying there is sometimes a reason why, whether it's a job, a shlichus, an apartment, a car, a shidduch, why people don't give 100% attention. Because some people are very attracted by the law that you see as being, so everything will attract them. Whatever, if it's in front of you, it's for you. And it might not be for them. So they know they can't trust themselves. Therefore, they're afraid to consider something, as I say, a job, a car, or a shlichus, a shidduch, anything, 100%. Because if it's in front of them, they're going to just drool and say, yeah, that's it, it looks so good.
You can't do it.
It could be an Israel.
Well, I'm trying to understand.
Process can be a test for the person.
Things, look. 2 points. Things that come your way. It doesn't mean you have to say yes. The people in the shul, when the Balagola came in, doesn't mean they have to say yes. Doesn't mean you have to go out. They learned something from what came their way. You can learn from something else. The Baal Shem Tov saw a Salem in the ice. He learned that the Kaltzad brings that Salem. That means that you should have a Salem in the ice. It means that you are paying attention to lessons of a person told you something. Oh, that helped me for a different idea that I had in my head. But if you wouldn't have listened to that person, you would have never had that insight from what you heard. Sometimes you can hear something from one thing and extrapolate it. Yeah, person I've mentioned, you have to be able to hold back before you make a decision. The glossy things that people see in front of them and they're drawn and you have to have a doctor.
It depends on your brainwave. If you have that kind of brainwave of whatever is in front of you, you think this is it.
No, that's not what I'm saying. That doesn't mean in front of you.
That's why those people are afraid to enter something 100% because they can't trust their instincts. So they always go back.
I'm not talking about, the person who can't make a decision, can't make a decision.
They take on the color of whatever is around.
Okay, could be many psychological reasons why people, all I'm saying is, in other words, when a person makes a healthy person who makes a chesed, a healthy person has this. The problem that I'm talking about is not an unhealthy problem. It's with healthy people. I think the problem you're referring to is like a little bit of unhealthy thing. No? Like the person who's just drawn to right away say yes?
Officially, it's a third of the population like that. So officially it's not called unhealthy.
I don't know.
You know what I'm saying? That's the way it is.
That's not good. But I don't know. I would hope that maybe the population, but not our population. I would hope. I don't know. Yeah. Okay.
People that write to the Rebbe write for different reasons. When you turn to a Rebbe, sometimes it's the Rebbe Levit. The Rebbe is such a great man. You can size up the situation and give me direction so I can decide.
Many people write to the Rebbe, and they feel like I'm going to throw it up. And what does the Rebbe write back? It's your problem. You have the right attitude. It's going to come to you. We don't like hearing that. But that's what he does every time. What did he do in the letter?
The Rebbe diffuses the fire. That's what the Rebbe does, no?
How did you react?
Okay. So,
sometimes we spin our
You didn't like it.
Yeah, no one likes to do anything. Okay. But,
what were you referring to?
But,
so let's
finish.
I to do, now you should do whatever you can. So everybody knows
what you were referring to about at least
what can I do?
Your eyes.
Let's
then the Rebbe gave us instructions.
Let's finish a little bit more of what we could do, and then we'll go into it again. So what do we have over here? Let's just finish off the second point, and then get to the last point. So what do we have over here? So we have the things that come in front of us. Yeah. So this is a consideration. What you're mentioning is a point that if it needs to be addressed, then people have to address it. But that's beyond us. That's not to do with a shachar patas. That has to do with making a decision, not saying yes right away, not pulling yourself into situations, not And that's something that we all have to learn, I guess. Not to glide in anything.
There will be a certain percentage of boys who, whatever the group says,
followers. Yeah. Okay. That's a separate. Peer pressure. That's a separate. And the same thing in a block. One person does something, everyone in the block does the same thing. Yeah, I mean it's the same. It's the same thing in everything, right?
Joneses.
Okay, fine, but that's a separate nekuda. That's the nekuda of just being able to be an individual. Okay, fine. That's a separate.
If you were one of those, you wouldn't have noticed that it was a separate thing. You would have been drawn in by what I said and taken the conversation somewhere totally different. It would have just pulled you in. That's the thing you talk about. See, and you were able to say, no, that's a separate thing. Meaning, you can filter. Instead of you can't filter, we'll just be drawn into that. But the evening is whatever was most interesting thing that was brought up. You know what I'm saying?
I understand. No, I understand what you're saying. But that is a discussion for itself. It's Kadeya B'Rachel Asma. But the Negel and Yanenu, what we're talking about is even when you do have the ability to pull yourself away from something, but you also have the ability to pull yourself away from the wrong thing. And that's what we're talking about. The ability of a person to be open and listen to the things they don't want to listen to. That's what we're talking about. That's a Shulchan Aruch. Listen. Okay. So what does this boil down to? It boils down to number 19. This is also about game learning from Aganis. It's the same concept. All these ideas of learning from life is all from the same Nekuda. It's basically listening to life, not dictating to life. But what does this boil down to? It boils down to 19 and 20. This boils down to one of the stories of this is how we look at Torah mitzvahs that are negeya in our life. We spoke about this many times, but this ties in right away there. When a person recognizes the things that they do are not 100% in their control, it's not shy for a person to think that there's a contradiction between a mitzvah and a tzlacha b'chaim. Because if I can't guarantee my life, then how can I guarantee that that's a contradiction? A person has a strategy for success in business. Can you guarantee that there's going to be success? No, you can't. Taxes and death you can guarantee. A strategy in business you can't. So how can you come to me and tell me with a straight face that because of Shabbos you lost money? You yourself have an imperfect strategy. You cannot conclusively tell me that. If you really point someone against the wall, you can't. And the recognition that I'm not in control means that my partner's Sheishis Yomesh and Yemashvi Tishbois is really essentially a recognition that this 6 days is my role and that's his role, the 25%, 75%. Essentially, you bring that within your life in how you view Torah mitzvahs. We had the whole discussion about Pada within Banei. We had the discussion of the within the Zaini different mitzvahs, which means to say the recognition that the things I do, there is an essential component there of bracha, of the Yedusha, to make it happen within the things that I do. But that's a separate discussion that we had. I just want to mention it here because it ties in. There's mitzvahs of Shabbos, Meiser. The point is, you don't remember the story that I mentioned a while ago, 2 people in the 40s. So they both lost jobs because of Shabbos. One comes home and had kids that were Shemei Torah mitzvahs. Another one did not have kids that Shemei Torah mitzvahs. They went to the Rav, they said, are you talking? The Rav is very simple. You came home and you said, Shabbos did it to me again. The Eibishter messed me over. I lost my job. You kids heard that the Eibishter messed you over, so they messed him over. The other one never said when he came home, the Eibishter messed me over. He never looked at losing a job because of Shabbos, but the Eibishter messed me over. The mindset of perceiving that Eibishter didn't mess me over, that can only come from understanding that I can't make it happen. But that's another discussion, but it ties in. It ties in. When a person recognizes that the things they do are not 100%, the word no guarantee allows you to invite Eibishter. Essentially, that's the moment. See, if the Eibishter would create the world, let me bring it this way. Many people look at Balei Shuvah and they say, hey, person made Shuvah because they had a weak moment. Yeah, had a weak moment. It's a weakness. Comes along this Gemara and this concept that we're learning and says, what are you talking about? Moments of weakness is a reality. The whole world is weak. There is no moment of strength. Person who does tshuva is because they met the reality of the world. And everyone meets that reality in a different time and space. Because it's not a weakness, it's a reality. There's no shyness. So everyone is going to meet a point, a time where they can't do something. It's a reality. So a tshuva comes from the realistic standpoint of the world. It's not a weakness. Those who claim weakness are living in a bubble because they haven't hit their weakness yet. In other words, they haven't hit reality yet. They don't know that they can't. They're going to hit a moment sooner or later that they can. And then they're going to realize it's not a weakness. The word weakness means there could be a strength that you can overcome it. You can't overcome a reality. The reality is there's no shlemus. There could be and that comes in many different flavors and colors. That reality allows a person to incorporate the Eibush in their life. Bitachon leads to shlemus Torah mitzvah. Again, but that's a separate nekuda. So that goes into number 2.
It's a very, very good nekuda because I just want to tell you, I want to add this. We were on our way to the airport, and my son was driving. And my son was driving, and he didn't put his blinker on to pull out, and then we were stopped by a cop. The cop, we're on the way to the airport, we didn't want to lose the plane, right? He gives him a summons for not putting on a blinker. Most people don't put on a blinker when they come when they pull out of your park, you don't put on your blinker. And for obstructing or a vehicle, because he said he was obstructing. I don't know how you can do that, but he did that. So my son-in-law and my son, they're Nazi, they're horrible, these police people. And they were angry. I'm not saying nothing. I didn't say a word because I thought it was, he has to be more careful. So at any rate, but afterwards, I'm saying, can you say, that happened, you have to fly, you can do stuff, slow down. But I was really, the ended thing is that, but interestingly enough, but what the punchline is, and he's a young boy, and he said to me afterwards, after they're saying that the policemen here are Nazis and whatever, he said to me, you know what, but you now ought to be angry, because it's mamash kafira. Why? Because that money from the summons wasn't supposed to come to me anyway. It wasn't mine. So it wasn't mine. So that's how it played itself out. It truly wasn't mine to begin with, and it was meant to be. And that's a much later that I have to learn from him because I give him a few months.
Let me just bring out the point number. This is point number 3. I don't look at
but the thing is, it's very hard when it happens to you. And you're like furious. You're not being slapped on the same thing for the same issue.
So let me go. This is point number 2. Let me bring this out. So again, let me just recap. Let me finish up the last point. We had point number 1, letting go of the future. Us. Point number 2 was how to be present in the present. Point number 3, Bitachon also helps you of letting go of the past. It's a beautiful story of a Mendel. I'll bring this out. In Russia, there were Lubavitcher Muslims. There were Muslims that were Lubavitcher. Unfortunately, it wasn't the Russian. They were forced. So there was a individual who was leaving Russia, and before he left Russia, he met with Rav Mendel, and Rav Mendel gave him a ticket. I mentioned to you that story. A ticket, yes. And so another Lubavitcher came to the Mendel and said, how can you talk to this individual? Because of him, my family is still left in Russia. Mendel said, Nachlen and Yosef Mechel. We have to learn. He got upset. He says, how can you talk to this individual? Because of him, my family is still left over here in Russia. He said, am I that? So the Mendel says, you have to learn from Yosef with his brothers. Yosef, when his brothers came, said, he let go of the past. Letting go of the past money. So he says back to the Mendel, big deal. Your kids are in London. My kids are here. You can say that. But I'm stuck here. Mendel tells him, first of all, I wouldn't tell this to you if I didn't feel that way. And second of all, the most important that he tells me is that you can't live life if you don't somehow manage to implement this tool. Simply, you don't manage to implement this kind of mindset of letting go of the past. You simply can't live a good life.
You can't be happy.
Can't live a good life. Can't. If my mind is in the past, I can't be in the present. If my mind is in the future, I can't be in the present. I can't. It's impossible.
It's also knowing that there's
Bitachon means that what happens. And it was by design and not by accident. It was by design. Why? Not my business. If I have something to learn from the past to make sure it doesn't happen again, please do that. Don't let it happen again. Because then you're making it happen. Letting go of the past. One is letting go of the future. 2 is being present. And 3 is letting go of the past. Realize things that happen, let go. If there's something you can do to avoid it from happening again, that's part of what you have to do. It's part of the present. If there's something in the present you have to do to avoid something in the future or to preempt that's what you have to do. But the things you can't do and the things that are not in your control because they happened, let go. Where are you putting your mind in places that you're spinning around yourself because it's a self-imposed jail? You're spinning around yourself for no reason. Let go. Bitachon is entrusting your mind where you want to entrust it and not letting it go where it naturally might go. Bitachon is more solid. Bitachon is essentially putting your mind in the goods. Tracht good. Now let's go to Tracht good. What's Tracht good? When a person is 100% focused on what they could do and do, Vuishlech. You put this gringa, it's not easy. Tracht good is not an easy thing. And Bitachon is not an easy thing. Life is not easy. No one said it's easy. But it is a tool that a person has, and like Remember said, it's such a beautiful thing. You have no choice. You really have no choice in life. You can't live a life if you don't develop somehow this tool. You're just going to be in agony. If your mind is constantly in the past, or your mind is constantly in the future things that are not in control, then you're going to be out of control because you're thinking about things that are out of control. So you become out of control.
So he was basically saying you become victim, right?
This victim thing is a choice. Being a victim is a choice. Victim syndrome, thank you. Being a victim is a choice. It empowers us. What is it? It's you be in the present. Be where you could be. Don't be where you can't be. Don't be where you're taken advantage of. Don't be where you're lost. Don't be where you're in despair. Be where you have to be. Tracht, good means investing your mind where you have to be. Let's see the letter that brings us up. Yeah. Let's see if it ever right. The 4 keepers standing for that.
Oh, there's 4 groups, right?
4 groups. If it ever right from there, how come no one thought of the answer? If it ever brings out how usually the things that are meant for us we don't think of. They come out of left field.
Yeah, that's so true.
That's what I said. You hear that? We had 4 keepers. Everybody thought 4 keepers. Such amazing ideas. The right idea, no one thought. Because the right things, usually we don't. When a person says, that's not my kind of thing to do. Who said? How do you know? Many people end up doing those things that are not their kind of thing to do. So who decided right now it's not my kind of thing to do? You telling yourself it's not my kind of thing is just prolonging how long it'll take for that thing to happen. Because it's going to happen if it's meant to happen.
I don't know what I'm talking about, but how do you differentiate between giving yourself like a chance to try something new that you think is like not your thing, and doing something that like puts you in a victim situation or like a situation where you think you don't need to.
Why? Putting your...
How do you just, because you're saying that we should, sometimes things come out of left field, but we're cautious of those things. Either because we're bullshit, because it's not part of our plan, it's not part of our, or because it's not a good place for us, like it's
not a good place. I'm not talking, if it's dangerous and it's insecure. When I say not my kind of thing, it's usually a case. I like to deal with a certain kind of people. There was a nice story that came recently in the papers, my story. So he writes, I think it's about Jacob. He's in...
So he
writes that he ended up having to do with kids that were in a hospital, not well, challenged children. It wasn't my kind of thing to do. But it came to me, so I did it. And it ended up being something that I really enjoyed, right? That's what I'm referring to. Things that come our way, that's not our taste. either because of Rama, because it's a Tasmanish. We have like different tastes and enjoyments that we have decided that we make interesting decisions in life. What really us, what's not really us, it's almost us. And therefore, when things come our way, it doesn't really fit in the glove. That's what I'm referring to. Something is dangerous, or something is then don't do it. But if something comes or an offer comes your way, someone says, "Can you please help me?" and ABC, and it's not, but it's not your case. And there's nothing. The summer comes, and I saw it comes that someone wants to. An example that comes many times for boys and for girls. They're more of a learning type. They're more of a shlip. Who said there's types? Who said there's types? Why are you making types? As if there's types. The summer, it could be someone who's learning can do that. Someone. I remember when I was in yeshiva. So there's making types is a problem. So I'll give you an example.
What did it do to you? You're going to say
yes, I was in yeshiva. They asked me to be in charge of the son. I was learning. Mashkiach said a nice line to me. He says, "And who should do it? Someone who's not learning."
That's good.
And why shouldn't you do it? So I did it. It's not a contradiction. Who made contradictions? Why is it a contradiction? Making a contradiction is the biggest contradiction. Doesn't make sense. Then you're not doing it for the real reason. That's a contradiction. These types and he's not my. Who made types and colors and shapes? That's what I'm referring to. And so many things come our way. It's not my type, it's not my shape, it's not my color, it's not my thing.
We judge.
The Nikud is not in the Hachot. I want to show you the letter inside. It's the third letter over here. Okay, you know what? Maybe I'll jump there right away. The last letter. Okay, and then we'll go back.
I guess my question is more about how to decide. Because you're talking about types. I'm the type of person that any opportunity comes, I grab it. Like, I'm not, if that's not an issue, I struggle with. You know what I'm saying? So I can't relate to people that are like, oh, it's not my type. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not. So that's why I guess my question is more about that. Like, how to filter.
That's what she was saying.
But you know, there are some people that have to explore all the options on the table and all the details and purposes, and then they make a decision.
So the Rebbe does write in the letter to the girl. The Rebbe writes the letter to the girl. The Rebbe writes to the Klali that ain't friendship alamas, and a person has koichos and tishrein. So when it comes to it, on the one hand, things that come your way, you have to listen to. But when you're boicher, whatever writes over there in the letter, that a person has koichos and tishrein, and therefore she should focus, if she has that opportunity in front of her, the priority would be a person should focus where they can bring out their koichos and tishrein for you to help to use it. Maybe put it this way, Aisha created the world. Why did Aisha create this person with that koichos, this person with that koichos? Because Aisha wants each one to contribute their koichos. So if you have koichos, the natural, automatic reaction should be, I want to give my koichos, and I want to develop them and give them, But if something comes your way, it doesn't stop you. That's why usually people say taste, because where does taste come from? Because usually you have your koichos and tishrein is original. But that shouldn't stop you from listening to others, because you might have hitting fish. There might be other things also. The natural way how we usually make decisions is based on koichos and tishrein. Usually that's how we make decisions. Sometimes we have a sheicha di'avar einei chachamim. Not sometimes, but all the time. So we don't really see properly. So that's where we have a seiluch halav or a pnei l'chachavar. You don't properly see yourself. You see what you want to see. So you have a seiluch halav, a pnei l'chachavar. A good friend is someone that doesn't tell you that you're great. A good friend is someone that tells you you're not great. And a good rav is someone who can direct you. And that's where you can manage to make a proper decision. But it starts from recognizing what is saying on Yom Yom. A chassid knows milus asmoy and chesroinus asmoy. Milus asmoy should be something that everyone knows. Not all the time, maybe. And chesroinus asmoy is important to know, not to have asmos, to know where your pitfalls are, to know what you have to work on. But that's the composition of a person. So the first composition of making any choice is first you know yourself. You can't make a choice if you don't know yourself. You're the one that has to make that choice. Right? And then you have to equip the shaykh.
You're going to buy a car and you have to choose between you have to know my requirements.
Buying a car and have to choose. What do you why?
Should I move to that city, buy that house?
A city can mean a mission. I mean, usually a person before a car, a city and house, there's a purpose. What do I do? People, number one, should be searching, what am I meant to do? What should I share? What's my life that I'm going to share? And what the thing? People ask, what am I going to do? It's wrong. It's not what you do. It's who you are that you should somehow. So that's the first question. That's Klikas and Kishreinas. That's chocolate. Call it, that's the first question. The person recognizes who they are, what they can work in. Start from there, and then it could be a city. I mean, unless people want sunshine, they want to go back to a certain place. I'm not talking about, that kind of decision. I'm talking about the real decision. What do people want? Meaning. People want purpose. People want that they matter. People essentially, this is another whole discussion. But the nikud is not what to do. The nikud is who you are. It's a big mistake to say, what am I going to do? It's a better starting point to say, don't start from the salary, because the salary is not going to make you happy, and the job will make you happy. It's who you are, how you express yourself, and where you're going to express yourself that's going to make you satisfied. Something about it, right? It's a different. Okay. So now, the job will make you happy, but if you're going to work in a place where you don't feel yourself, then you're going to be upset. You don't feel like you're the job is because the job helps. If the job is together with you, like a glove, it becomes develops you. So let me share with you the letter of the shidduch. See, that letter really usually talks a lot. So I shared with you number 2 and number 3 of that letter. The letter is the last letter in this booklet. The first point of that letter, the long letter in Yiddish, page 8. The long letter in Yiddish. Let me just share with you the first point of that letter. I shared with you the second point, which is the unknown. I shared with you the third point, which is the approach to the shidduch, and the Rebbe says that's the eater. That's the real answer to how to find the shidduch. And the first point that Rebbe talks about is also about the present and about how to make research. The Rebbe writes like this. The Rebbe writes like this. And that also has to do a little bit with what you're mentioning. Right? So think this. Rebbe writes, you're looking to get married. Rebbe writes in the letter, what are you looking at? So listen, you should know that there's no such thing as perfect. There's no such thing as 100%. Basically, this tomorrow that we were talking about. The last one, yes. I'm just saying it outside. I'm not going to go through it inside. So there's no such thing as perfect. People usually know that in regards to others. That's right. Usually people know in regards to others. And therefore, when something comes up, we right away find an imperfection. Can't do it. Says the Rebbe, realize that you're also imperfect. But realize that it's real. You're blinded by your own imperfection. But realize this realization is crucial for you to enter life with someone else. And that realization will help you overlook, and I'm going to explain what that means, will help you overlook certain imperfections. Because anyways, in life, you're going to have to somehow overlook certain things. What's the Rebbe saying? Some people can read a letter mistakenly and think that Rebbe is somehow pushing compromise. What's the Rebbe saying? That something bothers me, I should give up on it, or something. Saying something about it. The moment the person recognizes that they're imperfect, healthy person is someone who realizes that they have imperfections. The moment you know how to deal with yourself, you know how to deal with others. If you know how to deal with your own imperfections, if you know how to look at a struggle the right way, if you know how to have the perception of perceiving a situation that is imperfect is not shot imperfect as in out of reality. That is the reality. And you know how to deal with yourself, then you'll know how to deal with others too. So then you're going to look at an imperfection in a different way. You might even, I might add, you might even suddenly love a certain imperfection because that means that they did, and that I want to. Suddenly you look at things differently only if you come from the mindset that imperfection is a reality. And only if you come from the mindset that I also deal with things. So therefore, I can now look and bring someone else into my life. If you don't have that mindset, it's not happening. That was point number one in that letter. It's a very powerful letter. The point number one is, healthy person comes from the mindset of recognizing their own imperfection. That allows them to deal with themselves. You can't.
When you say deal with yourself, you're saying,
that means
I'll do better next time.
you
forgive myself.
you look at it starting in a different way.
The way that
you know the word.
The other person, I'm sorry.
Yes.
The way that you judge the other person is through your glasses that you know that you are also not perfection. You understand?
So you'll be more kind. You're kinder.
The word perfect is almost like when you look for an accident. That's like perfect. An accident can be perfect, maybe. I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know. But don't look at people like objects. When you look at yourself and you understand yourself, just a mensch, you're a person, you know what it means. Imperfection is not, the word imperfection is a bad word. Why is imperfection a bad word? It's a reality. It's like a weakness. It's not a weakness. It's reality. It's a person. Every imperfection really comes with a mile. It comes with, you look at things differently when you're not on a pedestal. You can look at the same thing, but it's how you look at it. Says the Rebbe, when you yourself see yourself in the prism of recognizing that you have imperfections, you see others in a different prism, you see them in a different light, and then that's the moment you can relate to someone else. That's the moment suddenly certain things don't bother you. Because you look at them differently. You're grounded. You're not coming from, usually people who highlight imperfections are in bubbles. They don't hit life. They never hit life. They don't know what life is. They don't know what it means to hit a bump. Every bump is an imperfection. They're afraid. They're afraid of themselves. Because they never hit a moment of a challenge. Challenge is a reality.
Saying highlight anything a person who criticizes, is that another word?
It doesn't mean good because of this. This is not good, huh?
More like a person that gets stuck at.
Yeah, stuck up. Yeah. Stuck up is what we said.
Yeah, it's like somebody that's getting stuck at other people's imperfections.
And I would say the word stuck up. Yes, easily they're stuck up.
I think that people can feel like they're choosing one.
No, I would say because they haven't learned to forgive themselves or to. But
it could come either because they're stuck up, or because they never hit life, or both, or whatever it may be. However, I'm not a psychologist. I don't know the reasons why everybody has everything.
However, it plays itself out.
Pesach is letting go. Letting go. That's what we're doing. This is Pesach. This is Pesach.
With chametz and everything is
letting go of the chametz. Chametz. This is chametz. When you have chametz in the head, then you have anxiety. Wow. You let go of the chametz, you have no anxiety. Then you have freedom. That's a good label. Okay, let's finish with the last one. I want to show you the few letters about Tracht. Fascinating letters. And that's the last point over here, and this is a different story. This is the Tracht, how person's mind can actually create change. I'll just share with you the letters, and then we'll see. Letter on page 5. Friedrich Rebbe writes in the letter, these are letters of Friedrich Rebbe.
5.
The Friedrich Rebbe. Okay?
5.
Page 5. Friedrich Rebbe writes, person, this morning I heard from my daughter, Hannah, that your friend is very feeling down. Then he writes one line. It says in the pasuk, "Ba'tirasi machala mitebecha." The Eibusher should take away a machala from you. So amru razal zehayayim. That's the mind. Take it out of the mind, and you take out a machala. The machala starts in the mind. When it's in your mind, you have a machala. Let go. Here he's saying in one word everything we talked about. Person lets go, you not only will it lead to menucha, it can actually lead to letting go of a machla. This is the Tracht book, as we'll see. In other words, a problem, sickness. Not only is letting go a recipe. For menucha, there's a power. Let's just first quote the different quotes and see what this means. There's a power of a person's mind that can actually be proactive. Usually we look at the mind as a expression. Okay, let me stop for a minute. Usually we look at machshava dibra ma'isa as an expression. I think what I feel, I speak what I think, and I do what I it's all expression. But really, it's not 100% true. Let me go through them with a few stories. Ma'isa can actually be a way to introduce new things into my life. Usually we think it comes from the head. I'll give you an example where it comes from the Ma'isa. A story that I mentioned a long time ago. That Ramban writes, Halavavas min shafas achra Ma'isa. Person can change from Ma'isa. Like an example that I gave so there was a principal that once came to a principal from a juvenile school. I don't know if you remember the story. And he was telling me that he has speakers that come to these juvenile kids to speak to them about not being criminals. So I asked him, how does it help? Yeah, the percentage is maybe 1% that helps. It doesn't really help. So why invest in the money? Because the government gives them money to be spending on that. That's what they do. So I said to him, I have a better idea for you. So why don't you take out the kids and have them do a Ma'isa Chesed? They never experience causing a smile. They know how to stab someone. They know, they simply don't have in their psyche of what it means to cause a smile. Have them do it 3 times a day for 60 days. Same Talamata, 30 days. 3 times a day for 30 days. We do the same thing, change habits. And then have them talk about what they did. Introduce something new through doing something. Why are you trying to talk to them about something they have no clue about? Have them do something and force them to somehow develop a feeling for something else. Ma'isa has an ability to develop a feeling. It's a fact. Person can suddenly do something, find himself in a new situation, do something. Ma'isa can introduce new feelings. It's not only an expression, but it's also a creator. Dibur, another story to Dibur, same idea in Dibur, was a story that I had from someone who was in a warehouse. And he made a rule, he was a manager of a warehouse, he made a rule, there's no cursing in his warehouse. Now he has a lot of supers and a lot of different kinds of people that come there, and they're not really they don't really respect that rule. But he was very strict with that rule. And even salesmen, even customers, there was no cursing. Okay, so they got used to it, they asked for something and they cursed, he didn't give it to them. One day a person comes to him, he tells him, we don't know what happened. So what happened? So I came home, my wife asked me, what happened? So what are you referring to? She says, you always were cursing. Now suddenly you're mensch. Coming home, it's not mensch. You don't curse at home. Why not mensch? What happened? How did this happen? He turns around, Alex, he says, your rule changed me at home. Forcing dibur can change a person's behavior too. Person suddenly changes the way they speak, that can change the behavior. And that wasn't because of a thought time, that was because it was forced. Dibur can be an entryway to change, not only an expression. Shav is the same thing. People can change where they place their mind, and that changes their mood. Changing your mind is not only a psychological thing, but it's actually a way to have an entryway of a new train of thought, a new way of impacting yourself. Says this practice, the design is an entryway to actually bring in. Levushim are not only mighty, but they're machmas. They can create, and it goes even more than that. Dibur, you can say a compliment to someone, a child who didn't do that well, but if you keep on complimenting them, you're taking out from the depths of their potential through complimenting. The dibur itself suddenly awakens within them things that they didn't have before. So dibur is not only an entryway for yourself, it could be an entryway for others. It's another discussion. Machshav is the same thing. Machshav could be an entry when you think about someone else, and it's not just thinking, it's investing your mind. You can actually help someone else. You see, you thought about someone, you called them, something this, depends how you think. Machshav is a powerful tool for someone else. There's a letter here of the Rebbe. Rebbe writes to someone, I didn't see you at the Fabrengen, but I thought about you. And then the Rebbe writes, the ruchnius things are not tied to time. So I don't know if the thought reached you yet, and you felt it, but regardless, it takes time till it penetrates. So if you didn't feel it, sometime later you might feel it. I'm going to show you the letter. The letter will be here.
That's so powerful.
So thinking about someone, and the Rebbe writes in the Sikha, I showed you over here also, Someone asks the Rebbe, is this idea of machshava mayela, this idea that thinking can change, is that only for Yeshiva Skula? The Rebbe writes, no. Just like Lashon Hara, it's for everyone, so for machshava is for everyone. This is another discussion on what machshava dibur hamaisa is. But suffice it to say, the machshava dibur hamaisa are not just exits, but it's also an entry. It's also to bring in new things into our life. So a person who trains themselves to think is essentially changing themselves too. You would think it's how you feel. You would think, so you said something and you change how you feel. If you did something, you change how you feel. Thinking is even more powerful, and it can also change the previous how I feel, how I speak, how I read. So the Levushim play both ways. Clothes are the same thing. You put on certain clothes and you go to a house and you can feel in a different way. Clothes are not just an expression of going to a house, they can actually put you into the mood of a house. So clothes, the gashmis, play the same role. They are exits, but they're also entryways. A person can listen to music and it can put them into good mood. He can listen to music if he's in a good mood. So you have all of these nekudas are entry and exit. Tracht, the Zayin is essentially highlighting the entryway of machshava. And not only for yourself, but it's for others. So I'll show you the second letter over here from the famous story of the Tzemach Tzedek. Yiddishkeit writes in this letter, it's not just the Tzemach Tzedek, the three Rabbeim in a row, the Tzemach Tzedek, the Rabbi Melash, and the Rebbe Rashab. All of them had the same story. The Cholim Mesukim comes, someone's going to die. Someone, the doctor says, is going to die. And the Chassid comes into the Rebbe and says, this is what's going on. Says the Rebbe, again, bracha, Tracht to change your mind. The mind should affect, fascinating thing. The mind of this father whose child is sick should affect the child to become better.
First of all,
it's not an easy thing. It's not a real thought. This is not a thought. We're used to thoughts as, I just thought about drinking this water. It's not a thought. This is, and how many times did you hear about a father saying, I missed you so much, and I was thinking about when somebody the phone calls and calls. That you hear more often. Right? That you hear more often. Maybe you don't. Maybe the fathers don't miss their children. I don't know. Mothers don't miss their children. Maybe say they're happy to leave the house. I don't know. But that can happen more often. Why? Because it's a real thought. Today, there's an absence of real thought, perhaps, which is normal. And it's very hard to think. And it's not easy. And the first step is not easy either. But the concept is there. The concept of machshava is a real thing. We don't always fast this.
I don't know how to work. But my question is,
I can. How do I?
Sorry, but every day people are sick. But it's not the end of the day yet.
but I'm saying this, I want to step backwards. What do you do? What do I do? How do you have that concept?
Let me put it this way.
Do you not think too much? Do you not think and just be? Do you not think and just speak? Sometimes the thinking too much disturbs.
It bothers me. So let me.
There were things that blocked that machshava.
No, but I want to go backwards. My said you go to Keduka. Hebrew, you can do it, but Tracht, how do you afford it?
Let me ask you a different question. The Tracht goes in the first phase of Menucha. Is that true? Letting go of the future, letting go of grudges of the past, and being 100% present in the present. Is that so often seen? That's a prerequisite before you go to anything else. In order to let go, you have to have something to let go of. If you never let go of something, then you didn't really let go. You understand what I'm saying? So the first step is in itself a tremendous step. And the second step of Tracht goes in the sense of investing your mind in a real way. It's not an easy thing. I would phrase the question differently. I would say it's very difficult for me to see myself having such a real thought pattern that's so real that's like when I miss my child and I call them. That kind of, when a parent says, I miss you, what? It's a difficult thought pattern. It's not when they bake matzah, they say the shem matzah mitzvah, right? They say the shem matzah mitzvah, but it's not the shem matzah mitzvah. What?
I don't find it hard to understand. It just doesn't always work. We're only seeing a part of the picture. So in your eyes, what you're seeing doesn't work. But if you saw the whole picture.
No, Tracht is supposed to be a medium, a Toiv, Hamida, and Nikola. Tracht is there's an interesting. There's a story here from a person, a pilot in World War II, of the Friedrich Rebbe pilot in World War II. It's a very good question. But the question I would ask on myself. In other words, there's a story, the stories we hear, there's a story with Reb Mendel in jail. Everybody knows the story. Spent a time with Machshava, right?
Yeah.
Connecting to Machshava. The concept of Machshava connecting, when it's a difficult.
Can you repeat the story? You spent a palm. Can you repeat that story with the palm?
Yeah.
You can be thinking about all you want, the person's going to tell you. The person that you
Can you repeat the palm?
He was in jail.
And they are in position. There's many situations that someone has to do it.
No. That's something else. The first step of Bitachon is letting go and allowing the Abishah to do his thing. And this step, it's specifically to facilitate a change that's good for my eyes. For my eyes. That's good. No, not the Abish. The Abish there should somehow make it in my eyes. The Toiv Hamida. In my description of it, not in God's description of it. His description. It's a strong question. I'm not taking away the question. I'm just putting the layer within the question that sometimes we kind of say, I did it when we didn't. It's not a doing thing. Put it this way. For 1 minute, and the next minute, that's not good. It's a mindset.
So that's
So yes, it was trusting good because I ate good ice cream. That's not good. I had a good supper. No, you know what I'm saying? Trusting is not an easy thing.
it's a tool. So how do we get that we need to have the tool to be able to do that?
I don't know, I take it as optimism, though.
And you can be optimist all along.
No, you can't. I don't think most people don't have that tool. And
First, I would phrase the question. When I was going through this, I asked myself the same question, and I told myself, let me first see how I deal with the first step. How am I able to evict Daigeh? That's a tremendous step. If I'm able to accomplish that in a real situation of Daigeh, then my mind is, then I can talk to my mind, and then you can somehow develop and take that mindset deeper. Do you sometimes not love a child? A person has a child. Do they sometimes not love them? Today I will trachten that I like them, and tomorrow I will trachten I don't like them. That's not trachten. It's a mindset that you like them. Trachtgut is, this is how it is. That's a very difficult thing to develop in your mind. It takes a lot of training. It takes a lot of, to be able to tell you this is how it is. It's not it's a tool, but
Some people are saying, well,
it's not. That's denial. The tract that we are referring to is a mindset. Almost like when I say a child, a person says, I love my child. Today I love them, but tomorrow I'm going to tract that I don't like them. That's not tract. Tract is a mindset. To be able to develop, successful people develop a mindset of focusing on the now, focusing on what I'm doing right now. The kind of focus that's demanded within this trachtgut is a tremendous leap. There's a reason why only certain people develop that kind of connection with Machshava. Because Machshava is a difficult thing. There are a lot of other thoughts that come to my mind. And you know what? Let me ask myself, I'm measuring sticks. So how do I feel the next day? And how do I feel the day before? And it's difficult. I'm just sharing. The last step is a little bit beyond my grasp, but I can just share with you what I do understand.
The question is how.
I understand step one. The Rebbe in the Sikha of Lamed Vav, the famous Sikha of Bitachon, says 2 steps. Brings on the step of Menucha, which in itself is a very difficult step. When you face the moments of the person in the hospital, the moments of the Zaynik, these are difficult steps as it is. Over there, to be able to have a calmness while you face and you're under a knife, that takes a lot of courage. I'm not talking about the Tracht to change the scenario. I'm talking about the Tracht to be able to be calm. Think about that. If a person develops that, then he brings on the Chavis of Avavis, which the Chavis of Avavis says that he can actually develop the B'Tzayv Amida V'Nigla. If it's an exalt, that takes a lot of training. It's not a, we use it as a slogan, like today I'm going to Tracht and tomorrow I'm going to Tanskut. It's not.
It's not saying it's a tool. How do I get that tool?
Tanskut is a good thing. Anyway, so this is, I think we finished. I'll just give the Sakim. We started off with
You started saying the point that...
2 points of what Bitachon is. We started off saying Bitachon is an optimist, and Bitachon leads... The story of Mendel was that he was in jail, and he wanted to write a pond, couldn't write a pond, so he was mitzayir in his machshava, and his machshava he connected. And he was as if he was giving a pond, and when he came back to New York, there was a pond, I think it was a pond waiting for him, the Rebbe gave an answer to someone, and said, I got your pond. So he actually connected with his machshava during that time. Yeah. So, yeah. But again, it's not a, think of that story. And you know, that you do have many stories. You have more stories, people who are in subtle usually have that kind of story. And it takes a lot of history. It takes a lot of history. It's not over the history, but it's from the history, you know. So we started off with a question of Bitachon. What's Bitachon? And what's the consequence of Bitachon? We brought down the letter that Bitachon is an optimist, and a lot of the letters that bring out that the consequence is Menucha. What's the optimist? We went through a discussion of 3 points what an optimist is. The way optimism plays out is, number 1, letting go of the future. Ifs and buts, the recognition that I'm not in control. Number 2, allowing that to seep into the present. Within the present, recognizing the hashgacha process of the present, the messages that come my way, how I approach the present. I'm 100% there. I'm not dictating, but I'm listening. The 3rd point, within the mindset of an optimist, is letting go of the past, the story of Rav Mendel, letting go of grudges, which is all a consequence of Bitachon in the sense of recognizing there's a purpose, there's someone else in control, I'm not in control myself. That leads to the 2nd phase of Bitachon, which is a Tracht mindset. Tracht is a consequence of the 1st phase. My mind is so focused in stuck in chum, you know. So that in itself has the ability to also create change. Just like machshava can connect, has the ability to connect to machshava, it can create change. I can see how create change in yourself. For machshava, the first change, just the menucha itself creates a change. And then everybody's more than that. Machshava, teva, another person, that itself can create change for another person. There's a few examples of that. Another story that I mentioned, the pilot. There was a pilot in World War II that was missing. He mentioned the story over here, one of the letters. And the feedback of the rights to the person who's the father of the pilot doesn't tracht good. The pilot is missing in action. Tracht good design good. So it's a powerful thing. So in other words, the mindset of a person, tracht good is Bitachon. Tracht good. Yeah. So there's a that's a story over there? I don't know. I saw the letter, I don't know what to say. So in other words, letters here is on page
Page what?
Page 7.
I think we have to...
Page 7 on the top.
But I think we have to...
Right? Oh, there's another letter that I didn't mention. And the 7 on the bottom is a letter where a person decided to give tzedakah in order to get a refuah shleima. He said, after I get that, I'll give the tzedakah. So this is the other way around. Give a tzedakah now, make the issue about choiz, and then you can just in about choiz. So you're going to have to make it better. It's another interesting point that he brings down. Yeah.
So you want to read the top of it,
Connected himself for
Yeah.
My question is, did this happen at some account? Did you do it?
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. Shalom Ayalot is not as much as it was mana mokim.
If Machshav Moel, for sure the Rebbe Tzvil Moel.
I think the Tracht is saying that there's a master in the world that he's.
Tracht is not just good. The good is Eibishter. The good is Eibishter in your life. To have a real.
The Tracht means that the Abish is in your life and he is good.
It's a real way. The person is. It's not an easy thing.
The Eibishter is all good.
Yeah, but for a person to.
We don't always see it, but if we.
We wouldn't have to be told.
But if we look back at our life experiences,
we're doing
What
this
does it mean?
because
What should I think about?
What does it mean
to think about a thing? This is what I need to think about. This is the how the Eibishter comes into my life, how I let go of the future. Why do I let go of the future? Why am I in the present? Why am I listening? Why am I how am I meditating? How am I? All of these inyanim are essentially a mindset and an outlook of a person of how they live. It's like a person with a partner in a business. You recognize, just to recognize, it's a deep recognition. Just thinking. And then first let us bring out the menucha, and then see how to bring out and change. Like trick.
what am I telling? I'm tasked with the design good. Is the age is good, or my situation is going to get better, or my situation is going to change?
The way I take this is first apply it in menucha. Don't look for tricks. First apply it in menucha. See if you can bring yourself to an absence of daigah. You can do that, then go to the shlob. Oh, so that, we discussed. So letting go is a decision you make. The pchita you have to let go. The pchita you have to let go of the past, let go of the future. That's something you can do. When you implement that, then you go to shlob base. It's not
What happened?
not a trick.
Whatever happened, whatever it was, it instrumented. It had a purpose. It wasn't we were in charge.
And if you implement that and you have chassid daigah, it's a beautiful thing. Then go on and take it.
Take what?
Then automatically, if you do that, it should lead to tracht. Then your life is a different life. To have that to that extent, that everything you see, then you'll see suddenly good things happening. Then you will see, let's not take it to the extreme of a choyle musukah. Then you can see suddenly good things happen. Brachas come. That you can understand. Brachas come when a person has tracht. When a person has chassid daigah, suddenly new brachas come. That you can understand. We see that on life. When you connect yourself, and we can relate. And the story that you mentioned, that when you have an absence of daigah, suddenly a bracha came. We can relate to that. Even more. And letting go of certain things allows new things to happen. So Avdera, you can see that, we can take that to the next step, that brachas that were unimaginable can also happen. The keli for brachas is the mindset that I accept Eibishter in my life. That's essentially what we discussed. I'm allowing Eibishter to come in my life, and that's Eibishter. Really, the Mailam is